Yo everybody, what's going on? This is Keegan from K-Man Reviews. If you enjoyed this review, make sure you hit that like and the subscribe button. And if you have any opinions at all you would like to share, leave them down in the comment section. Shooter Jennings, Electric Rodeo. Shooter Jennings, American singer, songwriter, son of previously mentioned on this channel, Waylon Jennings. I'm actually fairly thankful I'm getting this kind of request, keeping with a bit more modern country, but not quite the bro country of the 2010s, and don't worry Andrew, I will get to put the O back in country, just you wait. Anyway, Shooter's actually been around in the country scene a lot longer than I expected, in the late 90s, early 2000s, releasing 8 albums, and being a part of a couple different side projects, but today we're talking about his solo sophomore album, Electric Rodeo. Where does this land on my country review spectrum? Let's find out as I review it, track by track. Since I couldn't find if there were any singles, we're just going to start at the opener and title track, Electric Rodeo, which is immediately gripping from the first holler at the beginning when paired with the harder guitar playing and loud percussion, and just the overall denseness of the entire instrumental. Shooter's voice definitely takes after his father's. He's got the roughness to sell a track like this exceptionally well, but it's still just clean enough to where he's able to hold some notes and make some good melodies. Lyrically, it's a road song, as expected, and how you can never predict what's going to happen at the Electric Rodeo, as he calls it. Great opener, worth a listen. Gone to Carolina is much more of a relaxing track, especially with the piano work in the background that becomes a little bit hard to make out behind even more thick instrumentation. But damn, it's so enjoyable, even with how thick it is. Factoring in the chunky guitars and the smashing percussion and a guitar solo as well, it just becomes ear candy through and through. Shooter's voice is also very pleasant, really harnessing that melodic side that I mentioned previously as he sings about going back home to Carolina. Maybe not in birth, but just feeling like it's home. Very good song. Some Rowdy Women is another calmer track, but the main difference here is Shooter remains in a much deeper, traditional vocal timbre, and it's another damn good cut. The guitar is very intimate, soothing, and the drums just embrace an old school styling. And also, it's so rare to see harmonica in this type of modern country, so hearing it here just feels so wholesome. Also, can't forget about the wild piano here. It feels very ragtime inspired and somehow doesn't clash too much for the sludgier alt rock style. Lyrically, it's about trading city life for the honky tonk and some rowdy women. Another good song here. The song is still slipping away, dives down even deeper into ballad territory, and shocker, it's damn good as well. The flat, muted guitar strumming gives the song a much sadder, retrospective element than was probably intended, although the slapping of the snare kinda brings it back to reality. Shooter's voice feels a little bit off at the beginning. He embraces the throaty southern growl for the first verse, which clashes severely but then reverts back to a softer tone, and it's smooth sailing for the rest of the tune. Lyrically, it's a very depressing nihilistic point of view. Your heroes are assholes, living the high life but no love to boot, and everything falls into this gray area of life. Despite it being so negative, I love the song. It's probably a favorite of mine here. Hair of the Dog stays a lot more in the traditional style. Not too much here stands out instrumentally, just some basic warm guitar picking and simple percussion, but then about halfway through, it amps up with some grittier guitar playing plus a slightly silent electric guitar solo, unfortunately. It really could have been more at the forefront. Aside from that one reverbed holler 3/4 through the track, Shooter's vocals are kinda lackluster for this. They're a little bit too clean in my opinion as he sings about this crazy party he had last night, waking up to some nice dog hair. It's a good song, I like it, but it could have been better. Little White Lines feels a lot more like a rock song than a country song based on this instrumental. The guitar and drum work here really reign above everything else. The drum pops and the abrasive guitar melody sound fantastic together. Shooter's voice definitely stays lower than normal, probably trying to capitalize on the rock theme, and the song structure is probably the most bizarre element here. I mean, it's almost 5.5 minutes long, with a decent amount of time allotted to these spoken word skits about getting busted or just having a good time, while he's also singing about these little white lines, very subtle, and how they ruin his world. As much as I love the instrumental here, not much else works. Pass. Alligator Chomp, parentheses, the Ballad of Dr. Martin Luther Frog Jr., which aside from being a mouthful of a title, is a very abnormal song. It opens up with this murky ambience with gusts of air and the croaks of a frog that actually get incorporated into the instrumental. Shooter's voice almost dives into uncomfortable territory with how deep it is, performing the song in mostly spoken word as well. Lyrically, it's almost this weird kind of activist story, but with the themes of a children's book, with this divide between frogs and toads, alligators and crocodiles, until one frog speaks up and immediately gets eaten. I don't know, I really don't want to hear the song again. Pass. Manifesto number 2 is a short 2-minute seeming interlude with this really infectious fiddle. The track has this redneck barn burner aspect to it with the repeated lyrics and the group of people singing in the background. This type of music really hasn't been my thing. It's catchy, but it doesn't do all that much for me. I pass on this one as well. Aviators is the closest we get to a full-blown ballad on this album, and I quite enjoy it. The spoken word verses feel pretty reflective, a bit somber, also yet again in a deep voice like on Alligator Chomp, but here it's tolerable. The instrumental arrangement is beautiful with the piano, gentle percussion, and pretty breezy guitar playing. Shooter's singing here is also really good on the chorus as he's singing about remembering all these things he did with this girl and how he knows he could have done better. It's actually a very touching listen, definitely a standout for sure. Bad Magic gives this album a bit more of that signature aggressive tone that I expect Outlaw Country to have, and it's definitely another standout for me. It's certainly a lot more of a slow cut, but the instrumental is rough and raw with the chunky, shrill guitar and the loud, pulsating drums. Shooter's vocals are very similar to Waylon's here. That low, very close to slurring, but that holler at the end of the chorus almost makes up for it with how satisfying it is. Lyrically, it's about being alone, traveling the world, severing any ties, and basically becoming a ghost. Nice song, worth keeping around. And finally, the closer, It Ain't Easy, is a soft, heartfelt piano ballad to close off this album, and yet again, it's a great song. I do love how it isn't just the piano. However, sure, that's nice, but when the guitar and drummer kick in, the scale of the track amps up, making it feel so grand. The choir background vocals are also a nice touch, really complementing Shooter's prominent southern accent on this tune. Lyrically, it's very simply about looking back, thanking his father for being there for him in the darkest times, admitting it's not easy, but coming to the conclusion that it will all be alright. Great closer, great song. Overall, while I did enjoy the Shooter Jennings album, I didn't like it as much as I wanted to, especially the middle of the album, which doesn't really blend in that well at all with the rest of the record. Aside from that, some solid rockin' instrumentals, a tough, gritty voice to boot, not a bad country album in the modern era. I'm feeling a 7 out of 10 on this album. Well guys, hope you enjoyed that review. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.